Hi guys, this is Haki. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to build this simple registration and login system with PHP and MySQLi. In this system, a user can create an account and also log into their account, which is going to take them to an index page, which is going to display their username and their email and a welcome message with their username. And also, a user can log out from their account. So let me walk you guys through the system real quick. I'm going to create an account with the username of test and an email of test@gmail.com. A password of 12345. So right now it has created the account with the success message right here. I'm going to click on this login to your account. It's going to take me to the login page, which I'm going to input the details I used in creating the account earlier. So right now it has logged into the account. As you can see, we have a welcome message with the username and the username right here and also the email right here. If I click on this logout button, it's going to log out from the account, which is going to redirect me to the login page. So this is what we are going to create with PHP and MySQLi. As for validation, this system has some sort of validation. Like if I want to log into the account with empty input field, it's going to throw an error. Like now, please input username. And also if I want to create an account with the username that already exists, is going to throw an error. So as for security, we are going to make use of MySQLi escape string in order to prevent the system from SQL injection, and also we are going to make use of password hash in order to hash the password before inserting it to the database. And also as for the software, we are going to make use of SAMP. SAMP gives us ability to run a local server on our machine and also SQL on our machine. So if you don't have SAMP, visit apachefriends.org to download SAMP. And also if you are finding it difficult to set up SAMP, you can watch some videos on YouTube which is going to guide you on how to set up SAMP. So before you continue, make sure you have some knowledge of PHP and also make sure you have some knowledge on HTML and CSS, because you are going to make use of HTML and CSS to create the markup and style the page. So I'm going to make the project file available in my GitHub page, which I'm going to put the link in the description below. So if you're watching my video for the first time or if not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing and let's get started. Okay guys, welcome back. So right now I have about 5 PHP files right here. The first file is connect.php. This is the file we are going to use to create the connection to the database. Second file right here is header.php. This file is going to hold the connect.php file, which we are going to include in other files. The third file right here is the index.php. This is the file we are going to redirect the user to after a successful login. While the fourth file right here is the login.php. This is the file that is going to hold the login logic and also the login markup. And lastly, the red.php. This is the file that is going to hold the register logic and also the registration markup. So first thing first, we start by creating a database. So open your SAMP and make sure you start your SAMP. Click on this button right here and start your Apache server and also your MySQL database. Click on the admin right here. It's going to open a new tab and it's going to take you to localhost/php myadmin. So we are going to create the database right here. Click on this new button right here. Pass in the database name you want to make use of. In this case, I'm going to make use of login system. So I'll click on create. So right now it has created the database. We have to create a table. So I'm going to create a table of users. So this table is going to hold the users record and it's asking for a number of columns. I'm going to leave it 4. We need about 4 columns. So the first column is going to be the ID column. So each user need an ID and also the ID must be unique. So I'm going to click on this checkbox right here that says AI. This means auto increment. What this actually means is once let me say we have a user with an ID of 1, the next record we are going to insert into the data is going to be auto incremented to 2. So the second column is going to be the user's name column, which the data type is going to be varchar and the length is going to be 200. Actually this length is up to you, but I'm just going to make it 200. The third column is going to be the email column, which is going to be varchar also, and the length is going to be 200. So the last column we need is going to be the password column, which the data type is going to be varchar also, and I'm going to make the length 200. So I'm going to click on save right here to save the table. So right now we have the database with a table, with a users table, which has 4 columns. The first column is the ID column, the username column, an email column, and a password column. So that's all for the database. So the next step is to make a connection to the database. I'm going to open the connect.php. I'm going to add a PHP tag. So in order to connect to the database, we are going to make use of a function called Mysql I Connect. So I'm going to create a variable called connect because we want to make use of the connection in other file, and I'm going to set it to this function called Mysql I Connect. This function needs about 4 parameters. The first parameter is going to be the server name, which in our case is a local host because we are using local server. So input local host. The second parameter is going to be the user's name, which in our case is root. So I input root. Third parameter is going to be the password, which in my case is empty. The fourth parameter is going to be the database name itself, which in this case is login _ system. So if by any means you can't remember your database details, just click on this PHP My Admin logo right here and click on users account right here. So right here you are going to see the list of users. In our case, we are making use of this root user right here. So right now we have made connection to the database, but we are going to add some condition to confirm that the connection was successful. So I'm going to make use of a function called Mysql I Connect error. So what this function does is once there is an error trying to connect to the database, it's going to return true. So if the condition meets true, that means there is an error. We are going to echo something on the page. So I'm going to echo could not connect. Could not connect. And we are going to run a die function. So this function is going to terminate the rest of the script. So right now let's test the connect file. So I'm going to open the project right here. I'm going to navigate to connect.php. So we have no error because the connection was successful. So if I make some changes right here, like I'm changing the database username and save, then I'm going to reload right here. So right now we get an error, access denied for the users, and we can see the the message we just echo could not connect. So let me input the correct username. So right now we are through with the connection. We've connected to the database. So the next step right now is to work on the reg.php file. So I'm going to open the reg.php file right here, and I'm going to copy and paste the HTML markup. So right now I just paste the HTML markup on the reg.php page. So right now we need a way in order to grab the user's details from the input field and process it in the PHP code. So to do that, we have to give each input a name. So we are going to add a name attribute right here. So the first input is for the username. So I'm going to give it a name of username. Obviously, you can give it any name of your choice, but in this case, I'm going to give it username. Then the second input field is going to be for the email. I'm going to give it a name of email. The third field is for the password. I'm going to give it a name of password. And lastly, the button, that is the submit button, I'm going to give it a name of submit. So right now, in order to get these data, we have to add some attribute to the form tag right here. So the first attribute is going to be the action. So this action means the page want to submit this form to. Now in this situation, we are going to submit the form to the login to the reg page right here. So I'm going to add reg.php. So it's going to submit to the form to this page. The next attribute is going to be the method, which is going to be post. So actually there are other methods such as get, put, delete, but in this system we are going to make use of post and get. In this file we are making use of just post. So right now once a user click on this, let me open the reg page, the reg.php. So right now once a user click on this reg button, it's going to take all the details from this input field and it's going to post it to this page, which we are going to process it in our PHP code. So I'm going to add the PHP tags in order to work with PHP. So in order to get all these data from the input field, since we are making use of a method called post, there's a global variable called post. So this post holds all these data in the input field in form of associative arrays, which means we are going to pass the key in order to retrieve the value. And in this case, the key is going to be the name right here. So if I want to get the data in the input field of username, so all I have to do, I'm going to create a variable called username. Actually, you can call this variable any name of your choice. So I'll say username. I'm going to set it to the post variable. I'm going to open this square bracket. I'm going to access the value. So to access the value for the username, I'm going to pass in the username name. That is the username. So right now I'm going to echo this username right here to see it actually works. So I'm going to open the reg page host again and I'm going to submit the form. So if you can see right now we have the username of Hakim, which we input right here and submit. So I'm going to do that for the other input field. But before we do that, we can't just take this data and input it into our database. We have to make use of a function called MySQLI string escape string. This is going to prevent the database from SQL injection. So SQL injection is a process whereby a user go into your input field and write some SQL statement, which is being run in your database and can destroy your database. Like user can write a delete command SQL statement. If you don't use this SQL injection, it can run in the database and it's going to delete all your rows and or maybe destroy your table. So in order to use MySQL string escape string, we are going to call the function. So we say MySQLI escape string. So this function is going to take two parameters. The first parameter is going to be the connect variable itself. That is the connect variable. So I'm going to require the connect file right here in order to make use of the connect variable. So I'll say require once, and I'm going to pass in the name of the file, which is connect.php. Let me bring this up. So right now, if we include the connect file, we have the connect variable available in this file right here. So I'm going to pass in the connect variable, and the next parameter is going to be the input field itself, which in this case is the user's name. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right here. Then I'm going to take this also and put it here. Then I'm going to remove this semicolon right here. So right now, if you use the MySQL escape string function in order to prevent our database from SQL injection. So I'm just going to duplicate this and I'll do it for the remaining input field. So I'll say email. This is going to be the password, and also password. So right now, if we load this page, we are going to have some errors. The reason we are having these errors is because we are trying to set this variable to a data that does not exist. So we have to have some conditions first before we set these variables to this to the data we are getting from this input field. So over here, we are going to add a condition. We'll say if we want to make sure that the user actually clicked on this button right here before we will set these variables to the data we got from the input field. So right here we have the button with the name of submit and a value of register. By default, this submit button right here has a value. So once a user click on it, we know that there is a value coming in. So we are going to check if the user click on this button, and we are going to use a function called isSet. So what this function does is that it check if a variable is set. So in this situation, we want to check if the submit button is clicked, because the submit button has a default value. If isSet $_post, we open a square bracket and want to check for the submit. So if isSet, we are going to we know that the user click on the register button, so we are going to set these variables right here. So right now we should not have that error anymore. So let me reload the page. So right now there is no error anymore, but we are not only going to check for the submit button, we want to check also if the method is post. So there is a global variable called $_server. We are going to make use of it, and right here I want to pass in the option. In this case, we want to check for the request method. So we'll say request _ method, and want to check if the method is equals to post. So equals to post. So right now I'm going to check if the login button was pressed and also if the request method was post. So I'm going to reload the page right now, and we are good to go. So we are done with this condition right here. So the next option, we want to check for some input. We want to make sure that the user does not submit an empty input. So we're going to add an if statement right here. We'll say if. We are going to check for the username first. So we are going to make use of a method called empty. So this method check if a variable is empty. So we'll pass in the username. So if the username is empty, we are going to do something right here. So before we continue, we are going to create a variable called error. I'll set it to empty string. And also we create a variable called success. I'll set it to empty string also. So if we hit an error, we are going to add a error message to the error variable, and also if everything was successful, we are going to add a success message. So we'll say if the user's name is empty, that is the user variable right here is empty, we are going to set the error variable right here to please input username. Then right here we are going to add another statement. So we are going to check for the email. We'll say else if the email is empty. So pass in the email. I'm going to take this and we'll set it to please input email. Please input email. Also, we want to make sure that the email is a valid email. So we add an else if statement right here also. So in order to check if an email is a valid email, we are going to make use of a function called filter var. Filter underscore var. This function is going to take the email and it's going to take the option we want. In this case, we want the filter email option underscore validate underscore email. So right now, what this function is going to do, is going to take this email and it's going to take this option. It's going to filter the email to make sure that this is an email, and if it's an email, it's going to return true. So we are going to add is equals to false right here. So we want to check if it returns false, then we are going to add an error to the error variable. So we'll copy this. We'll say please input valid email. So next condition we are going to check for is for the password. So we want to make sure the user input a password. So we'll say if the password is empty, so we'll call in the empty function and we'll pass the password right here. So we are going to add an error message. We'll say please input password. So right now we have validate the input field. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take this error variable and success variable, and I'm going to echo them right in order to check the input. So right here I'm going to add a PHP tag. So I'm going to echo the error variable and also the success variable. But if I echo the error and success variable, I'll make sure that they are not empty. So I'll say if error is not empty, that is the error right here. It's not empty. I'm going to echo it right here. So I'm going to echo a div with the class of error. I already have the CSS tied right here. So these are the CSS right here. So I have a class of error right here. Yeah, look at the class right here for the error, and this is the class for the success. So I'm going to echo the error variable right here. I'm going to do the same thing for the success variable. So I'm going to check if the success variable is not empty. I'm going to echo the success variable right here. Let's see if we spell the success right. Yeah. So right now we are going to make some tests. So I'm going to try to submit this form without a username. So as you can see, we have an error message, please input username. I'm going to try submit it with a username but without an email. So I'm saying without an email, sorry. Please input email. So right now we are through with the form validation. So next step, we are going to add an else statement. I'll start working with the database. So first thing first, we want to check if the username already exists in the database. So in order to select from our table, all you have to do is to write a MySQL statement. So to write my MySQL statement, I'm going to create a variable called query, and I'm going to set it to a function called MySQL Query, and this function is going to take two parameters. The first parameter is going to be the connect variable, which is inside this connect.php, while the second parameter is going to be the statement itself. So to select from the table, all you have to do will say select star. This star means select all from. Then we pass in the table's name, which in this case is the users table. The users. That is this users table right here. Select from users where username is equals to the user name we got from the input field. So we are telling it to select all from the users table where the users column, that is username column, is equals to this users name we got from the input field. So once it has selected, we are going to add some condition. If this query returns a row, that means the user already exists in the database. Then we are going to set the error message to something like user already exists. So in order to check how many row is being returned, so we are going to use a MySQL function called MySQL I underscore num rows. And we are going to pass in the query itself. So this is going to tell us how many rows is being returned. So we are going to check if the row is greater than 0. That means it returns a row. That means there is a user with that username. So we'll say if my SQL I num rows is greater than 0, we are going to set the error variable right here. We'll say user already exists, please try again. So also we are going to do the same thing for the email. So we'll write an else statement right here, and we are going to copy this. We'll copy this query. But in this case, we are going to change it to email because we are checking for the email. And also we are going to change this the input field to email right here. Then we are going to add a condition. So say if, let's just copy this also, and we'll copy the error message also. Instead of user already exists, please try again, we'll say email. Let's change this to username already exists. So email already exists. So right now we've checked for the username and the email. So we're going to add an else statement right here. And we are going to insert the data to the database. Before we insert the data, we are going to hash the password. So we can't just take the password and input it inside the database for security reason. If a hacker might get access to your database, the password is going to be plain, which the hacker might use to access the user's account. So to hash a password, we are going to make use of a function called password hash. And first, we are going to create a variable called password hash. So this is going to hold the new hashed password. So we'll set it to a function called password underscore hash. So this function takes in the raw password, and it's going to take in the algorithm we want to use in hashing the password. So I'm going to pass in the first parameters, which is the password, and the algorithm wants it to use. We want to make use of the default algorithm, which is password default. Password underscore default. So this password underscore default is using an algorithm called bcrypt. So I'm making use of bcrypt algorithm in order to hash this password. So once we hash the password, we are going to take this variable right here which has the hashed password. Then we are going to insert this hash password into the database. So right now we are going to create a MySQL query in order to insert the user details into the database. So we'll say MySQL I query. So we are going to pass in the connect variable. Then we are going to pass in the statement. We'll say insert into users. We are going to open a bracket and we are going to pass in the column we want it to insert the data into. So the first column we want it to insert data into is the username column. Second column is the email column. The last column is the password column. Make sure these columns are correct. So we are going to add a keyword called value. Then we'll add a bracket also. So this bracket is going to take the value itself. So the first value is going to be the username. The second value is going to be the email. That is the email we got from the input field. Then the last value is going to be the password. So right now, once we run the statement, we want to set the success message. So we'll say success. We are going to set it to registration was successful. Please log in. So right now we are going to test the system and see if it actually works. So let me walk you guys through everything before we test the system. So the first condition we add, we checked if the user click on the submit button, and also we make sure that the request was a post request. Then we take the user's input and set it to these variables right here, and we create an error variable which is holding the error message, and also a success variable which is holding the success message. Right here we checked if the username is empty, then we added a message to the error variable, and we checked for the email also. Then we checked for the email to see if it's a valid email, and also we checked for the password to see if the user inputs a password. Then we add an else statement and we create a query in order to query the database to check if the username already exists in the table. So right here we checked if the username already exists in the table. If it exists, we add an error message to the error variable, and also we check for the email. If it already exists, we add an error message to the error variable. After everything, so we add an else statement right here and we hash the password. Then right here we are inserting the data into the database. Then we are setting the success message to this message right here. So we have to make sure we pass in the hash password, not the raw password we got from the input field. So instead of password right here, we're going to pass the hash password, the password we just hashed right here. So right now we are going to test the system. So I'm going to reload this page. I'm going to clear the inputs. So I'm going to create an account with username of test, an email of test@gmail.com, and a password of 12345, and I'll click on register. So right now we have created an account. It's showing us the success message, but we are having an error right here. This success message should be inside the div with the class of success, not the class of error. So over here I'm going to change it to success right here. Let's say success. So right now, let's open the database and make sure we have a record insert into the database. I'm going to click on these users. As you can see, we have the username of test, an email of test, and also a password of a hash password right here. So we have an ID of 2. This ID is going to auto increment. So actually, I used it to create an account earlier on. That's why we are having it from 2. We should have it from 1. So if you create an account again, it's going to be 3 right here. So we are through with the registration. So right now we are going to work on the login page. So I'm going to open the login page right here. I'm going to copy this HTML markup right here. So I'll copy from here. I'm going to paste it in the login page. I'm going to remove the password, sorry, the email. We don't need this field for email. Then right here is going to be register an account, register an account, which is going to take us to the reg page, reg.php page. Then this value is going to be login, not register. So let's open the login page and see. So I'll click on login to your account. And right now we have the login page. And here it's going to be login, sorry. So I'm going to change it to login. So right now we are going to do pretty much same thing we did in the registration page. So I'm going to add a PHP tags right here. PHP, close the tag. I'm going to require the connect file also. I'm going to require it once. Connect.php. So right now I'm also going to check if the user click on this login button, and also if the user is making a post request. So I'm just going to copy this condition right here instead of typing it again. So I'm going to paste it. I'm going to close the if statement right here. Also, I'm going to copy this also, these variables right here. I'll paste it over here. I'm going to remove the email. Don't want the email. Then we're going to start validating the input. So I'm going to add an if statement also. We'll add the empty function. Then we are going to pass in the username. So if there is an error, you are going to add an error message to the error variable. We'll say please input username, else if going to check for the for the password. So I'm going to copy this. So we'll check for the password. I'm going to copy this. Then we'll say input password. So right now we are going to add an else statement right here. So we are going to query the database and make sure that this username exists in the database. Else we are going to throw an error, user does not exist, please try again. Add a variable called query. So MySQL I underscore query. We are going to pass in the connect variable right here. Then we are going to pass in the statement. We say select star from users where username is equals to username. So right now we want to make sure that this username already exists before we continue. So we are going to make use of the MySQLi num rows function. So MySQLi num rows. We are going to pass in the query variable greater than 0. Make sure that there is a row return. Else, if there is no row return, we are going to set the error message to we'll say error, set it to user does not exist, please try again. So if there is no error, we want to get some column from the row returned right here. We are going to make use of a function called MySQLi fetch assoc. So this is going to return the row in an associative array, which we are going to make use of the key, that is the column name, to get the value. So we'll create a variable called row. I'm going to set it to MySQLi underscore fetch assoc. Then we are going to pass in the query right here. So right now I want to retrieve the ID and the password. So we'll first get the ID. We'll say ID. Then we'll get the row variable. We are going to pass in the key, that is the name of the column we want to retrieve, which is ID. Then we are going to do the same thing for the password. So say password, and get the password from the column. So right now we have the password and the ID. In order to continue, you have to verify that the password the user inputs inside the input field is the same as the password in the database. If you could remember, we hashed the password. So we are going to make use of a function called password verify, which is going to take in the raw password and the hash password, and it's going to evaluate it. If the password are the same, it's going to return true. If it's not the same, it's going to return false, which are going to show an error message to the users. So this variable is going to be password hash, because we already have a variable called password right here. So the one we got from the database, we are going to name it password hash. So we are going to add if statement to check if the password was, if the verification of the password was successful. So we'll say if password underscore verify, we pass in the raw password, that is the password we are getting from the input field, and we pass in the hash password, so password hash. So if it's verified, it's going to return true. So we want to check for the error first. So we'll say if password verify is equals to false, we are going to set an error message right here. We'll say error, set it to invalid password, please try again, else we are going to continue. So inside this else block right here, we are going to set the success message. We'll say success. I want to set it to success logging in. So we are going to set a section in the server. So section is the way of saving variable in the server temporary. There are other methods of saving variables that are on the server, such as using of cookies, but in this video I want to keep it simple, so we are going to make use of section. So in order to make use of section, you have to start the section. So we have to call the section_start function. So we'll say section _start. This is going to start the section, and the data I want to save in the server is going to be the ID of the user, which we are going to make use of in order to query the user data later on in the index page. So we'll say $_section. We are going to give it the key of ID. Then we are going to pass in the ID right here. So in order to make use of section, be it getting the data from section or starting or saving the data to the section, we have to call the section start always. So we don't want a situation where we'll be writing section start in every part of our code. So I'm just going to cut this section start function, and inside the header right here, I'm going to input the section start. So I'll create a PHP tag right here. So I'm going to input the section start right here. Then I'm going to include this header inside all the all our files which we want to use section. So also I'm going to take the I'm going to require the connect file inside this header file right here. Since we are using this header file in every page, we are going to include the connect file inside this place. So I'll say required ones, say connect.php. So inside the reg.php, instead of using connect, we are going to make use of header.php. Also, we are going to do the same for login.php. We're going to require the header.php. So what you are actually doing right here, we are including the connect file inside the header. Then we are including the header inside the many files, that is the reg, the login, and the index file. So we are going to go back to the login page. So right now we have the we've added the ID to the section. So right now we are going to send the user to the index page. So to send the user to the index page, I'm going to add a comment right here. I'll say redirect to index page. So to redirect to index page, we're going to make use of a function called header. So say header. This function is used to redirect to a page. We are going to add in two options. The first option is going to be how many seconds we want the user to wait before redirecting the user to the index page. So the option is called refresh. So we'll say refresh. I want it to be 2 seconds. Then the second option is going to be the page, which is going to be the index.php. So right now, once the registration is successful, it's going to display this success message. Then we are going to set the section. Once we set the section, we are going to redirect the user to the index.php page. So let me walk you guys through everything we've done earlier. So we make sure the user click on the submit button, that is the login button. I'll make sure that it's a post request. Then we take the user's data from the input field and we set it to these variables right here. Then we create a variable called error, which is going to hold the error message, and a variable called success, which is going to hold the success message. So we add some condition to make sure that the user input username and also user input password. So once we know that the user input the username and the password, we add a query in order to fetch from username, where the username is the username that the user input in the input field. So if the username does not exist, we are going to show an error message showing user does not exist right here. Please try again. Then if the user exists, we are going to take the user ID from the database and user password, which we are going to verify the password to make sure the password is correct. Then if it's correct, we are going to send user to the index page after setting the section. Or if it's wrong, we are going to display an invalid message. Right now, we have to make sure that the user sent this data to the login page, not the reg page. So earlier we copied the markup from the reg page, so we are still having the action as set to reg instead of login. So I'm going to change it to login right here. So let's test the system to see if the system actually works. So I'm going to open the page. I'm going to change this to test. I'm going to change the password to 12345. Click on login, and right now we have the success message, which is going to redirect us to index page after 2 seconds. So right now I'm going to copy the index markup real quick and paste it into this page. Right now I have the index markup in the index page. So let me open the index.php page right now. So we have the index markup and we have a logout button right here. So I'm going to add a PHP tag right now. It's a PHP. So right now I'm going to require the header file. So I'll say required ones, header.php, and I'm going to check if the section was set. So right now we can actually access this page without being logged in. So we don't want a situation where a user can access the index page without being logged in. So we are going to make use of the section variable which we set on the server earlier on to check if the section is set. That means the user is logged in. So we are going to allow the user to access this index page. Else we are going to redirect the user back to the login page. So to get the section, we'll add a condition. We'll say if we are going to use the isSet method. Right here we are going to check for the section. Say $_section, and the key was ID. So we are going to check if the section is not set first. So if it's not set, we are going to redirect the user to the login page. We'll use the header function to redirect the user. We're just going to add the location. Say location, which is login.php. Else, if the section is set, we're going to get the user ID from the section. So we are going to add the else statement right here. We are going to create a variable called ID. So ID, get it from the section, which the key was ID. So right now we are going to make use of this ID to query the database. So we are going to create a variable called query. So query, I'm going to set it to MySQLI. That's called query. We're going to pass in the connect variable. That is the connection. We are going to add in the statement. So we'll say select or from not from users, that is users table, where ID is equals to ID. So if you remember, each user has a unique ID, so we can select it by the user's ID. So once we've selected it, we are going to make sure that it returns a row. So add an if statement. We'll say if MySQLI num rows. We'll pass in the query if it's greater than 0. We are going to first check if the query is 0. If the query is 0, that means this ID is invalid. So we are going to return the user back to the login page. So we'll say if MySQLI num rows is equals to 0, that means there is no row return. We are going to take this header function. We are going to redirect the user back to the login page. that means this ID is invalid. Else, if we're going to add another if statement to make sure that this rows return is greater than 0. So if the rows return is greater than 0, that means we have the user's data. We are going to pull out some information from the row return. So the first information we want is the username, and the second information we want is the email. So first we are going to create a variable called row. So we will say row, which we are going to set to MySQLI fetch assoc. So we are going to set it to the array, which is going to return right here. We are going to pass in the query. So right now, in order to get the username, all we have to do, we say username. We'll get the row. We are going to pass in the key of the array, which is the username. We are going to do the same for the email. Also for the email right here. So right now we have the data. So next thing we are going to do, we are going to echo those data right here. So in this welcome message, we are going to add the username. That is the username we got from here. So we say welcome username, which is going to display the user's username. We're going to pass the username also here. And here, right here, we are going to pass in the email. So I think that's all for the index page. Let's see if it's going to work without an error. So we are going to reload this right now and see. So right now we have the username and the email and the welcome message right here. So right now we are going to add the code in order to log out from the system. So to log out, we want, once a user click on this logout button, it's going to take them to the index page, but we are going to pass in some option, which in this case, we are going to pass in the option of action, which is logout. Passing this option to this link right here means it's a GET request. So what you are going to do right now, we are going to pull out the action data and make sure it's logout before we are going to kill this session and take the user back to the login page. So over here, we are going to check if it's a GET request. So we'll say if is set, we are going to make sure that the option action is set. So we'll say if is set underscore get, and the option we are looking for is action. So, and also we want to make sure that this is a GET request, not a POST request or something else. So we are going to copy this right here. I'm going to paste it, but right here we are going to look for the GET request, not POST request. So with this condition right here, we know that the user click on this logout button, because once the user click on the logout button, it's going to send this information with it, which is the action which we set to log out. So we know that the user click on this logout button, and also we know that this the request method is a GET request method, and also we want to make sure that the action is logout. Passing the action and it goes to log out. So right now we know that the user click on that logout button, and also the action is logout, and also it is a GET request. That is a GET request method. So right here we are going to kill the section, and we are going to redirect the user back to the login page. So we'll call a function called section destroy, and that's called destroy. So this function is going to kill the current section. Then we are going to call the header function, which is going to redirect the user to the login page. So right now let's test it and see if it works. Let me reload the page and click on logout. Right now it has taken me to the login page. If I try to access the index page right here, so index.php is going to take me back to the login page. So let me log into the account again. So right now it has taken me to the to the index page, but right now I can come back to the login page and being logged in. So I don't want a situation where a user can access the login page when they are logged in. So I'm going to add some condition inside the login page. So inside the login page right here, we're going to check if the section is set. So we'll say if is set underscore section. I want to check for the ID. So if it's set, we are going to take the user straight to the index page. So the user can only access the login page if they are logged out. So I'm going to copy. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right here. Then I'm going to change this to index.php and I'm going to save it. So if I refresh it right now, it should take me to the index page. So right now I'm in the index page. I can't access the login page without being logged out. So let me try to log out. So right now I'm in the login page. If I also try to access the index page, it's going to take me back because I'm already logged out. That'll be all for this video. If you find this video helpful, please like and share. And also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. And also drop a comment. Let me know which kind of video you want me to make next. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.